executive secretaries of the NUC, chief executives of agencies and parastatals under the Ministry of Education, development partners, vice chancellors here present, members of the academic community, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. From its beginning as an advisory agency on higher education in the then Cabinet Office under the Prime Minister's Office, the National Universities Commission has metamorphosed into a statutory body regulating more than 200 universities and inter-university centers. Now, 60 years down the line, it has become a foremost university regulatory agency in Africa. May I quickly acknowledge the presence of some of our distinguished guests here at this event, and the front row to my right, of course, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, is standing in for His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We appreciate. Seated next to him, of course, is the Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Abubakar A. Rashid. Well, to my immediate right, actually the first on the front row here, is seated Professor Peter Okebukola. And next to him, of course, is Professor Sir Steve Smith. May I also acknowledge the presence here of a former board chairman of the NUC, Professor Shehu Gadadanchi. Well, on the right of the SGF, of course, is the registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, Professor Isaac Uluyede. And yes, let me recognize here distinguished Senator Udo Doma, who is right here. Let me also acknowledge the presence of the Executive Secretary, TED Fund, Architect Sani Echono. Oh, I'm sorry, I must have missed that out. That actually next to him is seated a former Minister of Education, Professor Rukayat Ahmed Rufai. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as this event gets underway, let me at this point now invite the Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, to formally deliver his address. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, ably represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, former Chairman of the NUC Board, former Executive Secretaries of NUC Board, our guest speaker, Professor Sir Steve, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and a rare privilege to welcome you to this historic moment in the evolution of the National Universities Commission, the commemoration of its 60th anniversary. We are celebrating the 60 years of commitment to the goal of assuring quality in our universities, guided by our motto of thought and service. We are celebrating 60 years of noble, fruitful, and worthy service to the nation. I'm especially delighted to welcome His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, GCON, who is today ably represented by Mr. Boss Mustafa, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Sir, your presence in this special event shows your passion for quality education and the value it brings to society. We thank you for your continued support to the Commission and to university education. I'm also delighted to acknowledge the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu CON, whose trust, confidence, and sound advice have enabled us to record appreciable successes in managing the complexities of this commission. Up till yesterday, 6 p.m. yesterday, the minister was looking forward to participating in today's event and had actually made some appointments with some members here, but some circumstances have necessitated his absence. Let me also welcome all invited guests, former ministers, legislators, as well as former NUC board chairmen, and my dear predecessors in office, the former executive secretaries. I say to all of you, welcome home. It also gives me immense pleasure to welcome my colleagues, vice chancellors, and other members of the university community who have been worthy partners over the years in our collective quest to provide quality university education for sustainable national development. I welcome all heads of partner organizations and friends of NUC, both home and abroad, who have joined us in this historic event. On this note, I must mention two international icons of university education who have flown in from the United Kingdom. The keynote speaker, Professor Sir Steve Smith, the UK government education champion and UK ambassador of education to Saudi Arabia. And I think until recently he was also the ambassador of UK, education ambassador to Nigeria, Brazil, Egypt, and I think Iran. I hope, yes. We also welcome Mr. Douglas Blackstock, President of the European Association of Quality Assurance Network. May I now extend my sincere word of welcome to my colleagues, members of the NUC management and staff, as well as the NUC Strategy Advisory Committee, STRATCOM, under the distinguished chairmanship of His Excellency Professor Emeritus Peter Okebokola. I also recognize the contribution of successive staff and management of this commission, who have been central to all the achievements of the commission over the past 60 years. To all our former staff here present, as well as the current staff, I say welcome. It is fitting at this juncture to pay tribute to staff of the commission who have passed on over the years. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. Amen. Your Excellency, sir, 60 years ago, the National Universities Commission was created as an administrative department in the Cabinet Office, with a responsibility for coordinating the activities of the existing federal and regional universities, as well as acting as the channel for providing block grants to the federal universities. The NUC became a statutory commission following the promulgation of Decree No. 1 of 1974, which gave it the mandate of ensuring the orderly development of universities in the country and assuring quality in the delivery of university education. I must acknowledge the efforts of the then head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, whose vision led to the creation of the statutory commission. A major milestone, such as today's anniversary, presents us with an opportunity for reflection. It affords us ample room for reminiscence and stock-taking of our journey so far, so as to evaluate our achievements, analyze our challenges, and map out new strategies. It is an opportunity for self-assessment as a commission, a renewed commitment to the task of nation building. This is what informed the themes of our anniversary symposia holding later today. It is our hope that the deliberations will lead to a cross-fertilization of ideas and implementable solutions which will guide the Commission in its future endeavors with the awareness that the challenges ahead are indeed very enormous. The NUC has, since inception, presided over the growth of the Nigerian university system from its humble beginning with 5 universities in 1962 to 220 universities in 2022. One of the mandates of NUC is to lay down minimum academic standards for programs taught in Nigerian universities and to accredit the degree programs. The development of the minimum academic standards document, an incredible achievement at the time, led to the first NUC accreditation of programs in 89-90 session. In consonance with the Commission's drive to evolve and keep pace with changing trends, the mass documents were merged with the existing bench statements of 2004 to produce in 2007 the benchmark minimum academic standard documents, which have remained the Commission's primary instruments for accreditation and other quality assurance exercises. Your Excellency, sir, efforts to review the BMAS document in the past were met with several challenges. However, in early 2020, with support from the NUC Stratcom Committee and the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and the larger university community led by the Vice Chancellors, the Commission resumed the review of the existing BMAS with the aim of producing curricula for the NUS that would be among the best rated in Africa in terms of relevance. It is therefore with great pleasure that I inform fellow Nigerians, Africa, and indeed the whole world, that as part of activities to mark the NUC at 60 celebrations, the new core curriculum and minimum academic standards for 17 disciplines and 238 academic programs will be unveiled today. The Commission is honored that His Excellency the Vice President has graciously accepted to launch the CCMAS documents through the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa. I must recall and gratefully acknowledge the encouragement given to the Commission by His Excellency President Olusegun Obasanjo at the time the Commission took the first steps to re-engineer the curriculum. Actually, President Obasanjo called me and urged me to ensure that the curricula were reviewed as soon as practicable, because that would be the most important intervention he felt in support of the Nigerian university system. Another important milestone attained by the NUC is the production of guidelines for the implementation of transnational education, TNE, in Nigeria. This will allow reputable foreign universities into the Nigerian university space through different models, which include, but are not limited to, the establishment of campuses in Nigeria and partnerships with the existing universities. The TNE will expand access to higher education, a perennial problem faced by the growing population of young Nigerians desirous of university education. The National Steering Committee on TNE will be formally inaugurated tomorrow by the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, in order to guide the implementation of the policy designed to drive the reinvention of the universities, of the country's university system. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the poor showing of Nigerian universities in continental and global ranking of universities has remained a major concern to the Commission. In 2021, the NUC, with support from Stratcom, under the close guidance of Professor Okebokola, completed the first official ranking of Nigerian universities in 15 years, with the hope that it would foster healthy competition in the system. We knew that rankings everywhere and every time would be viewed as political and contentious, because those who do well will welcome it, and those who rank low will have something to explain why they rank low. Indeed, the recent Times Higher Education World Rankings that featured 48 Nigerian universities is a testament to the impact of the work that Okebokola and his group has been ongoing recently in this regard. The Commission believes that entrenching the practice of university ranking will further improve the international visibility of Nigerian universities and ultimately key into the transnational education agenda of the country. The keynote address, the university in a globalized world, to be presented by an icon of university education, Professor Sir Steve Smith, would hopefully provide the Commission with insights for effective implementation of our transnational education policy and indeed its other novel ideas. There is so much to be proud of as a Commission. And I would like to thank you all for being a part of our many and varied achievements. Our challenges have strengthened and shaped us into the organization we are today. I am to say that successive managements and generations of staff have built on the strong foundations laid 60 years ago. I am delighted and grateful for the good work done by the chairman and members of the NUC at 60th Anniversary Organizing Committee. We also acknowledge the tremendous work done by the Stratcom towards the success of the event. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once more, on behalf of the NUC community, I welcome you all from far and near, and thank you most immensely for honoring our invitation. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to take out a few moments to acknowledge the presence here of the immediate past Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Julius Okoji. May I also recognize a former Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Munzali Jubril. And also joined us a few moments ago, the Executive Secretary of the NBTE, Professor Idris Mohamed Bugaji. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Hamid Boboy, Executive Secretary of UBEC. And may I recognize the presence of Raphael Pont, Director of Cooperation in the French Embassy, who is standing in for the French ambassador. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now may I call on the representative of the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu is being represented at this occasion by the Registrar of JAM, Professor Isaac Oluyede. I do call on him to present the Minister's address. Professor Oluyede.
The Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by our boss, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the members of the National Assembly who are here present, the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, past Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, Chief Executive of parastatals who are here present, Chairman or Pro-Chancellors of universities, Vice-Chancellors, other functionaries of the NUC, parastatals of the federal government and the universities, former ministers of education and other ministries. I could see Professor Rukaya Ahmed. I could also see Chief Udodun. Members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I have to pick my words because I'm trying to behave like a minister, which I am not. And I have to be serious for once. I am delivering the address of the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, who will be late in attending this program due to reasons that had been given by the Executive Secretary of the NUC. And I hereby read his address. I feel highly elated to witness this memorable Diamond Jubilee celebration of the NUC. On behalf of the management and staff of the Federal Ministry of Education, and all its departments and agencies. I therefore felicitate with the management and staff of the Commission on this auspicious occasion. While I joined the Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, MNI, MFR, FNAL, in welcoming distinguished guests, particularly the Vice President of the Republic, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SANGCON, who is being ably represented today by no less a person than the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Let me profoundly applaud the Commission for continuously championing the re-engineering and revitalization of the Nigerian university system for optimal service delivery in the last 6 decades. Since the onset of the university education in Nigeria in 1948, following the establishment of University College Ibadan, now University of Ibadan, and the establishment of NUC, first as an agency in the Cabinet Office in 1962, and later as a statutory commission in 1974, the commission now superintends over about 220 universities, comprising 50 federal universities representing 22.72%, 59 state universities representing 26.82%, and 111 representing 50.45% as private universities. The Commission is empowered to ensure the orderly development of university education for the production of quality graduates relevant to national development and global competitiveness. Since its establishment in 1962, the Commission has recorded tremendous and invaluable achievements which have made it a force to be reckoned with as one of the leading quality assurance agencies in the world, and indeed the first in Africa. Little wonder why the Commission is being inundated with calls by sister African universities to assist them in the establishment of quality assurance agencies for university education. In its efforts to reposition the National University System, NUS, for excellence and global competitiveness, the Commission, under the leadership of the incumbent Executive Secretary, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, has been actively involved in the rapid revitalization of the system, one of which is curriculum re-engineering from benchmark minimum academic standard to core curriculum minimum academic standard, with emphasis on the acquisition of 21st century employability and entrepreneurial skills. At this juncture, let me sincerely appreciate the Vice President of the Republic, His Excellency Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SANGCON, for his kind acceptance of NUC's invitation to declare this ceremony open and launch the core curriculum minimum academic standard. The academic standard is a product of the comprehensive curriculum review exercise of all disciplines and programs in the Nigerian university system, which commenced in 2018. It has been carefully designed to reflect contemporary realities in all the programs offered in Nigerian universities. Indisputably, the core curriculum, the CCMAS, will be a value addition to the Nigerian university system. It is on this note that I profusely commend the sustained contribution of the NUC to the development of the Nigerian university system through renewed thoughts and services. Although the Nigerian university system had made giant strides in the past 60 years, generally speaking, the system is still bedeviled with avoidable challenges of inadequate access, which is as a result of increasing demand for university education in Nigeria, incessant disruption of academic calendar due to industrial unrest by university-based unions, emergence of a number of illegal degree awarding institutions, brain drain syndrome, security challenges, as well as funding and leadership deficits. Let me seize this opportunity to express government's concern over the bloated staff nominal role, especially in federal universities, amid the inadequate academic staff strength required and the attendant consequences on academic programs. Consequently, the Commission will need to work closely with the Federal Ministry of Education to mandate university councils to conduct comprehensive staff audit exercise to determine their actual needs. We must strive to change prevailing narratives to get things right. The responsibility of providing quality higher education to all Nigerians is that of all stakeholders and interested parties, not just the government. Thus, I invite all of you to join the government and the NUC in the quest to build a greater Nigerian university system that will serve as a practical catalyst for national and global development. I implore the Commission not to rest on its oars, but to continue engaging all stakeholders in both the public and private sectors, including development partners, in its quest to deliver on its mandate, as I reiterate the unwavering commitment of the Federal Ministry of Education to the delivery of quality university education in Nigeria, not just for the development of the university, but also for national development and global competitiveness. Long live the National University Commission. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you for listening. Malam Adamu Adamu.
Thank you very much, Professor Ishaq Oluyede, JAMB Registrar, presenting the address of the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I acknowledge and welcome to this event His Excellency, the Ambassador of Spain, Juan Cel, who's joined us here. And may I also acknowledge the Executive Secretary of the National Council for Colleges of Education, Professor Paulinus Okwele. And the Registrar of the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, Professor Ajiboye. Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Architect Sonny Echonu is the Executive Secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund. May I now call on him to present his paper on a case for sustainable funding of university education in Nigeria.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since I have a lot to say and very little time to do so, permit me to limit my recognitions to my boss, who goes by the name Boss, and is also representing our boss, His Excellency the Vice President at his occasion. So to all the former ministers, chief executives of parastatals, heads of diplomatic missions here in Nigeria, former chair of NUC board, former executive secretaries, our pro-chancellors, vice chancellors of universities, and all the other stakeholders in the sector, I say a very good morning to you all. Let me start by congratulating the board, the management and staff of the National Universities Commission on this auspicious occasion of the 60th anniversary celebrations of the Commission. It is indeed gratifying to note the humble beginning of the Commission and its evolution from an administrative unit in the then Cabinet Office in 1962 to one of the leading and most consequential agencies of the federal government with a mandate to regulate the entire Nigerian university system. An occasion of this nature not only affords stakeholders the opportunity to applaud the phenomenal growth in the sector from 5 universities in 1962 to the current 220, but to also review the many achievements and challenges with a view to charting the right course for the future. I also want to thank the Executive Secretary of the Commission, the man I call His Eminence, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, for the gesture of inviting me to share my thoughts on the topic of sustainable funding of tertiary education in Nigeria, which undoubtedly is one of the burning issues of our time. Let me quickly add that the views to be expressed are mine, and since I didn't discuss this with my management, it should be divorced from the official views of TED Fund. But permit me to also pay tribute to the succession of great minds, including Professor Jibril Aminu, Professor Peter Okebukola. I also see Professor Julius Ukoje all here, who led the commission and laid a solid foundation for its success. No doubt, education occupies a unique position among the sectors of any economy, being the catalyst for sustainable transformation. The legendary African leader Nelson Mandela described education as the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Higher education in particular is believed to generate a higher level of returns on investment for a longer period, while promoting social cohesion as well as crime reduction. Although tertiary education alone will not make development happen, it is instructive that development in this knowledge era cannot happen without tertiary education. Similarly, a sustainable tertiary education system is critical for a country and its citizens to participate in and benefit from the global knowledge economy. Yet, a thriving economy is also required to generate the wealth necessary to fund tertiary education sustainably. In Nigeria, public universities are funded majorly by government, taking less than 10% of the federal budget and even less at the state levels. The budget is based mostly on staff strength and the number of students, and often directed at payment of staff salaries. The public universities typically do not charge tuition fees, although many state institutions have been forced to do so in the recent past. And they charge only a fraction of the full economic cost for services, such as power, water supply, cleaning, and waste disposal. Relying heavily on limited government funding, these public institutions struggle to meet their costs or diversify their revenue streams, hence the recurring calls for their repositioning and revitalization to enable them compete on the global stage for venture capital, for research grants, international scholars, and students. The rapid expansion of the higher education system, particularly over the last few decades, coupled with the recurring global economic crisis and fiscal stringency arising from the structure and the poor management of the economy, has affected the funding of tertiary education institutions in Nigeria. This has exacerbated the endemic problem of poor quality of graduates, overcrowding in classrooms, outdated curricula, despite the great efforts that have been done by NUC in the last few years, and deteriorating facilities, again, despite the modest achievements of TED Fund. Others include high students-lecturers ratio, high ratio of non-teaching staff to teaching staff, inadequate motivation of academic staff, and consequential inability to attract academics from across the globe, as well as a shift of recurrent expenditures to salaries, to the neglect of other essentials, such as library, educational materials, and complementary facilities. According to Rodney S.L., a great stock of tertiary level graduates enhances productivity levels in the economy. Therefore, every state's playbook should include 3 key elements. The first is to ensure that higher education funding is adequate. Then we should also ensure that institutions use those funds efficiently. And thirdly, we should ensure that they have sustainable funding models for tertiary education, which is going to be the subject of my submissions. Public tertiary institutions in Nigeria are facing the twin pressure of rising demand and fiscal constraint. The country is grappling with rapidly growing population and declining revenue, due partly to things like corruption, we talk about oil theft every day, and greater vulnerability to fluctuations in the price of oil and the inherent financial sustainability risk. It is therefore evident that near total dependence on government for education funding is no longer sustainable. The national policy on education provides that basic education, which is seen as a fundamental right of every citizen, should be free and compulsory in the country. However, tertiary education, which provides a full range of learning options and opportunities, is an investment with lifelong returns to the individual as well as the society. Increased social demand for tertiary education in Nigeria and the desire of the country to participate in the knowledge economy has generated the need for greater investment in tertiary education through sustainable funding. But the question is, where will the funds for the needed investments come from? There are some even wider questions bordering on pertinent policy issues to be addressed, and I'll mention a few of them. Where does tertiary education fit in terms of national strategy for socio-economic development? What are the policy goals for tertiary education in Nigeria? What is the role of the government in a diversified tertiary education system? What is the desirable limit of government expenditure? How much infrastructure is the government able to fund and maintain? What is the role of government in research and innovation? And what is the funding strategy? How can the student financing system be developed with due consideration for equity? And will the private sector be willing and able to invest in public tertiary institutions? And under what conditions? I could go on and on. But one thing is sure, the incessant industrial actions over the last few decades by various staff unions in our tertiary institutions, bordering on challenges of funding, have further heightened the need to explore innovative, sustainable funding regime for tertiary education in our country. This implies rethinking stakeholders' involvement in education financing to secure a qualitative and functional tertiary education system, which is an essential tool for sustainable development. A new model of sustainable funding for tertiary education in Nigeria is indeed needed. And there are 3 fundamental areas that need to be addressed in this regard. The first is government funding, which is currently below the global average and needs to be increased and deployed in a more transparent manner and better managed. An increase in education tax to 3% will address this imperative and fulfill our President's pledge to the Global Partnership for Education. The second is the university curricula, and the ES of NUC talked about this while he was here. It needs a constant revamp to produce graduates who are better suited to the realities of the national economy, which is an economy that cannot offer more formal employment at present, but rather needs job creators. I believe that the faithful implementation of a triple helix model of government, academic, and industry collaboration will upscale private sector contribution and demands and ultimately deliver benefits to all. The third is for the nation's universities to generate their own income to complement government funding. With the current economic fluctuations in the country, higher institutions need to fully embrace their roles as economic contributors, along with the traditional roles of research and teaching. Our universities should be encouraged and supported to seek for additional revenue sources by developing a range of pathways and mechanisms, including ventures related to their core business of education delivery, research, and services, such as clinical medical facilities, agribusiness, and consultancy services that will be self-financing to generate surplus to the institution and other such similar initiatives. So I have some key recommendations for consideration. First is a review of the role of government in tertiary education. I believe that government should redefine its role by allowing full implementation of the 2004 Universities Miscellaneous, what is called the Autonomy Act, which empowers university councils to take full charge of the operations and development. Government should limit its role to overall policy framework, regulation, and the creation / strengthening of institutions such as the NUC, TED Fund, the Education Bank that I'll be talking about, the Federal Scholarship Board, and the Students' Loans Board, which I will also talk about shortly, to address the multifaceted challenges of education. Also, where government chooses to implement policies, such as what I consider as the ill-advised free tuition policy, it should make full financial provisions for same as grants per student based on the cost of training for individual courses established by the university governing councils. Government should continue to provide scholarship and bursary for exceptionally gifted scholars and verifiable indigent students based on income levels of parents and other discernible criteria. It should also provide dedicated funds for research and innovation to be assessed on strictly competitive basis. The second is the enhanced role for university governing councils that I alluded earlier. First, the composition of university governing councils should de-emphasize political patronage in favor of academic, business, and policy expertise and disposition. Governing councils should determine the structure of fees based on revenue streams, including government grants and other cost structure. This will enable them to pay the right wages to attract and retain the best brains, as well as provide a conducive teaching and learning environment for national and global competitiveness. And also, they should ensure that the nation's universities operate on the strength of their balance sheets by demanding accountability and efficient harnessing and deployment of internally generated revenue by all our tertiary institutions. The next is the concept of cost sharing by stakeholders for tertiary education. I believe, though controversial, that it is expedient to encourage students who are primary beneficiaries to contribute to the funding of the system through payment of tuition to complement government subventions and interventions. In fact, it is common knowledge that many state government-owned institutions have already adopted this model. And two, that the rest of society, including university alumni, faith-based and other philanthropic organizations, the organized private sector, professional association, and other stakeholders should be encouraged to support tertiary education through endowments, partnerships, and linkages, and the execution of designated projects in our campuses, on our campuses. Then the issue of the education bank I alluded to. It is not a new idea, I must say, because Decree number 50 of 1993 established the Nigerian Education Bank, but it hardly took off due to policy somersaults and opposition from certain quarters. A resuscitation of the bank will provide a pool of long-term concessionary funds to finance PPP projects in public tertiary institutions, fund critical infrastructure even in private institutions, and it may also incorporate a student's loan scheme for greater efficiency in loans amortization. It is instructive to note that currently, at least 3 banks in Nigeria, namely Access Bank, First Bank, and GT, offer loans to Nigerian students to study either at home or abroad. The problem with that is that the tenor, that is the duration of the loans, and the interest rates are unattractive. Hence the need for a moderating strategy through this mobilization of funds for an education bank. Then the other vexed issue, gladly it also has gained some currency in the recent past, is the student loan scheme. Many people in this room will recall that in 1974, the Yakubu Gowon regime established the Nigerian Student Loans Board to grant loans to indigent students to pursue their education. That loan was supposed to be repayable in 20 years after graduation. Unfortunately, the government also didn't help matters because after the first set of awards, it decided to also waive it and paid off all the loans on behalf of the students in the heady days of the oil boom. So the board became moribund. But the model is highly effective and is used successfully in many countries in the US and across Europe. That model aims to ensure that upfront costs do not deter potential students. Governments provide loans to universities for students' tuition. They also offer accommodation and maintenance stipends for students. Once students graduate and are earning above a certain threshold, they begin to pay back the loans. Applying this model to the Nigerian university system, however, will raise 2 scenarios. First, we all know that the wide availability of opportunities for formal employment in Western countries is at the heart of the success of this funding model. Does the Nigerian economy have such graduate opportunities for formal employment? Is a question we'll need to ask. And conversely, can the introduction of this model motivate and re-energize the Nigerian graduate to take on the role of job creator in order to pay off student loans? This scheme will obviously require effective loan repayment system from an identifiable, even if not entirely predictable sources. In trying to close, I'll talk about the issues around partnerships, endowments, research grants, and ventures, which I consider the alternative modes of raising additional revenue to our tertiary education system. So I say TED Fund, NUC, and other agencies of government should intensify efforts and investments to prepare and capacitate Nigerian tertiary institutions to effectively compete in the global research and innovation ecosystem. This will enhance their relevance and upgrade their financial and infrastructure bases. Our institutions should be supported to explore partnerships and collaboration with funding agencies and development partners, both at home and abroad, to attract support and complementary resources. The institutions should strengthen their R&D activities and ensure effective linkage and collaboration with industry towards the commercialization of their research outputs to generate revenue and sustain the system. They should establish functional business development offices to support fundraising and pursue knowledge-intensive business opportunities, as well as opportunities for research grant funding. And finally, the tertiary institutions should devise innovative ways of engaging in entrepreneurship initiatives and explore commercial opportunities to guarantee self-sufficiency. So in concluding, I believe that the future of tertiary education in Nigeria lies in sustainable funding, which is clearly rooted in sharing costs among stakeholders, greater autonomy for our institutions, diversifying income sources, creating new sources of income, building partnerships at home and abroad, and creating wealth beyond teaching and research. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Architect Sonny Echono, Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I acknowledge the presence here of Hajia Rekia Ilyasu, Director of University Education, who is standing in for the Permanent Secretary, the Federal Ministry of Education, David Adeju Andrew. Your Excellencies, today's event will feature a presentation on the university in a globalized world. But to properly introduce the guest speaker, may I now call on the Deputy Executive Secretary Administration of the NUC, Mr. Chris Meyaki.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, moderator. I now have the distinct honor of introducing Professor Steve Smith. Professor Steve Smith was appointed as the UK International Education Champion in June 2019. A new government role aimed at boosting global education partnerships. He was also appointed as the Prime Minister's Special Representative for Education to Saudi Arabia in October 2019. So Steve was the Vice Chancellor and Chief Executive of the University of Exeter from October 2002 to August 2020, spanning a period of 18 years as Vice Chancellor. He was previously Professor of International Politics at the University of Wales, as well as Head of Department of International Politics, Director of the Center for Public Choice Studies at the University of East Anglia. He holds a BSc in Politics and International Relations, an MSc in International Studies, and a PhD in International Relations, all from the University of Southampton. He's been awarded an honorary DSc at the University of Southampton and an honorary DAD at the University of West of England in the United Kingdom. Sir Steve has held several prominent positions in the UK higher education sector. Most notably, he was President of the Universities UK, the representative body for the executive heads of UK universities from 2009 to 2011, and chair of the UCAS board. Sir Steve was knighted in the 2011 Queen's Birthday Honours for services to higher education locally and nationally. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, I now have the distinct honor once again to invite, and please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Sir Steve Smith.
Thank you, Chris. Your Excellency, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Tertiary Education and TET Fund, the Chairman, House Committee on Tertiary Education and Services, the Honourable Minister of Education, ably represented by the Registrar of JAM, the Honourable Minister of State for Education, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Education, the Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, the Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, with all protocols duly observed. I am absolutely honoured to be invited to this auspicious event, which is, I think, a reflection of the United Kingdom's warm and historic two-way education and cultural relationship with Nigeria. Such, in fact, is the importance of this event that I didn't actually just fly from the UK. I flew from Jakarta in Indonesia here via London, which took me 36 and a half hours. Such is my commitment to being here. I think it's also important, as Chris has said, that to reflect that I'm an international relations specialist, and your very timely theme about globalization is something dear to my heart. I've written a rather well-received book on globalization, which has sold over 1 million copies. So I know a little bit about globalization, or at least I did when I wrote the book. I also should report that in my first ever job, I taught Nigerian politics. This was in the late 1970s. A lot has changed since then. There were only 2 books I could find from publishers on Nigerian politics. But you can see that your theme today, my academic career, the relationship between the UK and Nigeria, means it's really, really timely that we're holding this meeting, and it means a lot to me personally to be here. Since its formation in 1962, the NUC has grown in stature and influence. It's a great testament to its domestic and international vision, verve, and influence. As I've said, I've just returned from an intensive tour of 4 Southeast Asian countries. My final destination was Indonesia, where I led a group of UK universities keen to partner with local institutions. Can I stress the word partner? Partnership is absolutely key. That and the work we're undertaking with their government on creating a robust education environment is a mirror of what is happening to education in this globalized world, with all institutions everywhere looking further afield to share ideas, build capacity, widen ambitions, to create and sustain quality, contemporary, and inclusive education. And key to our international success has been understanding what local universities and communities increasingly expect in a rapidly evolving global space. In other words, we have to listen to what people want. Higher education institutions around the world are now having to consider even further student needs in the terms of modules, format of studies, and linking that with what industry wants, particularly in the country or region of the host. Rather than working in isolation, universities across the world are now more than ever looking at partnering domestically and crucially internationally, be that on curriculum design, research, pedagogy, and the new online platforms and content. We're also now seeing evidence of an increased use of national virtual peer networks, an excellent, informal but inclusive way of passing ideas around. Now, the UK government's cross-government international education strategy is a reflection of these changes. Departments in London work as one for a quality education offer for international students, whether studying courses in the UK, overseas, or in blended formats. That strategy is core to my role in further developing education partnerships in really only 5 key countries around the world, of which, of course, I'm proud to say, Nigeria is one. In the UK, a graduate route was introduced last year, which allows international students completing undergraduate or master's degree to undertake 2 years work experience, 3 years for PhD graduates in the UK upon graduation. Many other countries have put in place similar offers to enable that transition to the world of employment for students from a range of backgrounds. It's also crucial to get industry buy-in on courses, ensuring that education and skills provision at all levels is demand-led to reflect industry needs at a community and national level. Many countries are considering how to further attract female students, not just for academia, but for post-study careers, including in their local communities, and in so doing, helping to create a safer, fairer, and more democratic world. From a student's perspective, where face-to-face teaching is still limited, there's the potential loss of the sense of belonging. So there's a definite need to be more imaginative in enhancing the student experience and interaction to ensure general well-being. In that, I've been really impressed by the way that some lecturers from around the world, including in the UK, have been really creative in terms of inclusive content where access to resources and practical artifacts has been limited. This time last year, I was joined on a panel by an overseas UK alum who had studied during the height of the pandemic. Encouragingly, she was very positive about her experience. She was pleased to see heightened inclusion with more students with disabilities and those coming from the lowest quartile of deprived areas. That's a worldwide trend. Online makes that easier. Another observation of hers was that this was now an opportunity to strengthen the connection between industry and learning, in that students may be in a better position to curate the modules they want rather than the educator. It's interesting to observe that some institutions are now exploring the offer of studying through short blocks and thus offering that flexibly. The UK attracts over 605,000 international students to the UK. And in 2021, I read in an excellent report published by our friends at Universities UK International that TNE from the UK is now delivered, believe it or not, in 228 countries, with 511,000 students studying via UK TNE, a 13% increase from the previous year. Nigeria hosted an impressive 5,100 of those postgraduate TNE students, which was 90% of Nigeria's total TNE. But when you see how active other nations are in the international arena, it's clear that no university can be complacent, irrespective of their national or faculty reputation. Whilst there are challenges to mobility globally as a result of the pandemic, higher education, transnational education of different models to suit local needs offers an additional option for students. And we're witnessing increasing interest in the UK offer, which leads the way globally. The importance of TNE then has become even more vital than ever. We've seen that the pandemic accelerated trends that were already visible in the TNE space. Online learning, remote proctoring, virtual and augmented reality are all making strides, bringing forward the use of digital by probably 5 years. Hundreds of thousands of students are now engaged in remote and blended learning as they work towards completing courses certified by British universities and colleges. In fact, another nice statistic, all but 15 of the world's countries now receive some form of TNE service from UK institutions. And as we look ahead to the vast opportunities presented by a fast-changing world of technology and innovation, this flexibility in education without compromising on quality will be key. There are excellent providers in the field of online teaching and learning opportunities, including the University of London and the Open University, who are all active in Nigeria. These offer a high-quality online alternative to face-to-face teaching, enabling education for all, regardless of location. To complement this, the UK is currently working with international ministries on trialling robust digital assessment and frameworks. Pedagogy also must keep up with the new methods of delivery. The British Council are leading some excellent, innovative partnership initiatives in this field, but it's a learning process, and in the UK and around the world, universities and ministries are assessing what works well and sharing their findings through international dialogues such as the annual EWF, Education World Forum in London, which is a prime example of that discussion. I do hope that ministers from Nigeria and colleagues from the NUC are able to attend the next EWF, which will have higher education as a prominent theme on the agenda. Beyond the academic value, there's huge economic value within TNE, both locally and nationally. It helps national competitive, creates sustainable communities, attracting more students to the host country and enhancing gender equality. And there is something that I know that the NUC and Nigerian universities and the honourable ministers are keen to enhance. This is that TNE is also a very effective means of reducing brain drain by helping to retain talent in country and offering a wider, more inclusive route to quality education and the world of work. Also, when considering partnerships, it's important to look at individual faculty excellence and not just those universities in the Times Top 100, and to understand the value that each partner seeks and the key drivers. Each partner needs to be fully assured of their respective qualities and ambitions. There's also the need to ensure that qualifications achieved via the TNE route are recognised in the host country post-graduation. Furthermore, there is the growing importance of building expertise across the decarbonisation and net zero skill set. The UK hosted the COP presidency in 2021, and following that, at this year's COP in Egypt, we fielded many inquiries from nations on how to translate this into education at a university level. Universities need to be aware of other international factors in this globalized world. For instance, TNE can contribute to many of the UN sustainability goals, as reflected in the British Council's excellent report on the value of TNE, which of course included Nigeria. So what does the future hold? Well, vocational skills and training provisions should not be overlooked, and this includes offering these in universities as we do in the UK with degree apprenticeships. The demands of rapidly shifting global and local economies, changing innovative industrial landscapes, and student and worker demographics is having a profound effect on the skills that young people need to start and sustain high-quality employment. Students, you see, are no longer competing for employment simply with students in their local town. For this to work successfully, the profile and attraction of a career in vocational skills needs to be improved and viewed as complementing a university education. We have to end the situation where university education is for my children, but vocational education is for other people's children. There's also a need for mature workers to and upskill. The requirements for future skills, for example, those required by the renowned Digital Creatives Industries Hub in Lagos, includes a much broader set of workplace, personal and internationalization skills which universities are well placed to deliver. Skills training also has a direct positive impact on the UN Sustainable Development Goals through the reduction of poverty. In the UK, we also believe it's important for students to benefit from doing part of their formal studies overseas. This broadens their perspective, both academically and culturally. In fact, in the UK at the moment, only 7% of students study for part of their course overseas. So the British government has now the Turing Scheme, which funds about 40,000 students a year to travel abroad. It's the UK's Outward International Mobility Programme that supports students in UK universities, colleges and schools to study and work across the globe. The scheme's in its second year. There are 37 students currently studying here in Nigeria. But you can see from the sheer numbers that if this partnership between the UK and Nigeria is to be really a partnership, we have to increase that number considerably. So finally, following my previous trip here in May, I'm really excited to be playing a role in helping to increase the capacity of Nigerian universities to partner internationally. I and colleagues in the UK government, the British Council, and Universities UK International are experts on the latest developments and potentially localized solutions. We know through bitter experience what doesn't work. So we look forward to imparting that knowledge and guidance in support of the Nigerian higher education sector and including via our input to the really excellent NUC HE TNE guidelines. I'm thrilled to report that there are many UK universities that want to come out to Nigeria next year to start these discussions. Central to these discussions will be contextualizing what we in the UK have learnt from our engagements with the other great nations across the world. And if I can leave you with one final but very important thought, is that the key lesson of my work, the key lesson of what the government is doing, is that whatever we propose has to work for both sides. It's got to be long term. It's got to be based on mutual respect. It's got to be sustainable. It's got to be as a result of listening. We cannot talk about TNE in Nigeria only from the position of what supports the UK. It's got to work for both the UK and Nigeria. You see, that's what that's what higher education looks like in a globalized world. No country can alone solve global problems. And no university, however good, wherever it's located, has the monopoly on the ability to understand the world. I look forward to hearing more from the distinguished speakers this morning and perhaps meeting some of you at EWF in the UK. You will be our most welcome guests. But as a symbol of appreciation, I just want to tell you how honoured I am to be invited to this occasion. Because the truth is, our two great countries have a long history, but there's so much more we can do together, and who better to do it than our great universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sir Steve Smith. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know that the papers that have been presented here, you'll get copies of them. For those who registered, these papers will be emailed to you, will be sent to your email. So rest assured that you'd have these papers that are being presented here. You'll get them through your email, those who registered. Let me just quickly acknowledge the presence here of a close ally and partner of the NUC, Dr. Harun Al-Rashid Adamu. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there are a number of goodwill messages that have been recorded on the occasion of this 60th anniversary of the National Universities Commission. And if the technical crew is set, I'd like to bring you a few of these goodwill messages. They'll run back to back. So technical crew, this is where you take it home.
were owned by the federal government. These universities are owned by the federal government, by state government, and indeed by private organizations. So the number has increased tremendously. Not only are they, as the number increased, but indeed the complexity. Very pleased indeed to bring this goodwill message from my colleagues, the Committee of Pro Chancellors of federal government-owned universities, to the National Universities Commission as it marks its 60th year of existence. We do so because we believe that the National Universities Commission has come a long way. We remember with a lot of nostalgia when there were just 5 universities in the country, and these 5 universities were owned by the federal government. But we know that there are currently more than 220 universities, and these universities are owned by the federal government, by state government, and indeed by private organizations. So the number has increased tremendously. Not only are they, as the number increased, but indeed the complexities of the universities have also increased. They have gone from conventional universities only, which the 5 universities were in those days. We now have specialized universities of medicine, of agriculture, police affairs, military, and indeed the number is the number keeps on and on. Transportation. We are glad about these changes. Also, from the information we get from our vice chancellors, when we interact with them at council meetings, we're enthused by the information that the National Universities Commission has done very well. It is therefore with great pleasure that I bring this goodwill message to the organization and assure you that the Committee of Pro Chancellors will continue to work with you, the NUC, in the furtherance of the university system in Nigeria. In particular, we want to bring our goodwill message to the current management of the National Universities Commission, because we note that these advances we're talking about, they had occurred prior to this time, but they have been accelerated under the supervision, under the guidance, under the leadership of Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, who is the current Executive Secretary of the NUC. So Mr. yes, we congratulate you, we congratulate the organization, and we want to assure you that we as a body will continue to work with you under the supervisory, the presence of our body, the Federal Ministry of Education, to ensure that university education will continue to progress in Nigeria. Happy birthday once again.
On behalf of my honorable colleagues, the House Committee on Education and by extension the House of Representatives, convey our good message on this special occasion of the Commission's 60th anniversary of the National Universities Commission. I join the host of other great Nigerians to felicitate with you on this very wonderful and successful occasion. Of course, 62 years is not a mean job. I have been associating myself through the instrumentality of the committee, and I've had occasion to work with various leaders that have served the commission. I want to particularly say that the commission has always been lucky to have academics of repute that have provided untinted leadership for the commission to have reached where it is at present and to have recorded the successes that they have recorded this one. I am proud to be associated with the NUC, an organization of great repute that have seen the tertiary education reaching this great citadel. I want to use the medium to reiterate our unwavering support to the Commission and to continue to assure you of the committee's readiness to partner with you to ensure that the system and our institutions of learning, particularly the university, continue to grow from strength to strength. It is my hope that all of us were good hands together to ensure that the commission succeeded in the task ahead. I once again congratulate you. I congratulate the Executive Secretary, Professor Rashid, who is incidentally my teacher, under whom I graduated also.
I am Mrs. Christine Clark, Acting Director General, National Youth Service Corps. On behalf of the management, staff, and members of the National Youth Service Corps, I am most delighted to extend our warm felicitations to the National Universities Commission on the occasion of its 60th anniversary. NUC has no doubt grown as a strong government agency committed to ensuring quality education for all Nigerians through the regulation of the nation's university system. Today, we join millions of other Nigerians in celebrating 60 years of enviable achievements of the Commission in the areas of monitoring, evaluation, and promotion of quality assurance in Nigerian universities. Your major strides in the modernization of the university system, bringing about competitiveness, especially through the licensing of private and state universities, are also commended. Let me also use this unique moment to reaffirm our commitment to our partnership with the Commission, geared towards continuous injection of sanity to both the university education and the NYSC mobilization process. Once again, I congratulate you on this special occasion. Happy anniversary.
I, on behalf of the National Commission for Colleges of Education, NCCE, and the College of Education in Nigeria, rejoice with the Executive Secretary, the management team, and the entire staff of the National Universities Commission on the amazing news of your 60th anniversary celebrations. This is an incredible milestone, and you deserve the spotlight to celebrate the moment. Over the years, your regulatory functions have given Nigerian universities better direction and guidance, leading to quality higher education delivery of global standard. Also, NCCE, as a regulatory agency of teacher education at the sub-degree level, has enjoyed a cordial working relationship with your commission these years. While felicitating with you, I pray that in the years ahead, we shall explore further areas of amity and fraternal cooperation for greater quality service delivery in the education sector of nation building. Once again, congratulations and happy 60th anniversary.
Good morning, everybody. It gives me enormous pleasure to join the thousands of well-wishers who have been wishing the NUC many happy returns of its 60th birthday. The NUC has come a long way, as we know, from being a tiny attachment to the Cabinet Office. It has moved out to the Taylor Street, Victoria Island, and that move, I think, is very significant in other ways, because it indicates that the NUC is not just an appendage of the government. The number of universities have continued growing, and the Ajayi Taylor, Idowu Taylor address, which we thought was commodious, was not enough. for the activities of the Commission, and so we have this magnificent building in Abuja. And we hope that while we're thinking of the past 60 years, we will also give some consideration to the next 60 years. And a lot of changes are happening right now, and a lot more changes will happen in the next 60 years, the most prominent of which is the utilization of technology in all areas of university activity. Anyway, I am sure that NUC will get itself on top of that situation. It has so far had the good fortune of having extraordinarily competent executive secretaries, and I hope that they will be able to keep the universities in Ibadan in the same area of competence and usefulness as other universities in other parts of the world. So many happy returns, NUC.
Let me congratulate the National Universities Commission on its attainment of 60 years of existence. 10 years ago, as Vice Chancellor of the University of Ilorin, I had the honor of participating in making a book that we call 50 Years of University Education in Nigeria, in commemoration of the 58th anniversary of National Universities Commission. A lot has happened since then, and I know that National Universities Commission has continued to justify its existence. It has continued to justify its existence as not only a supervisory body for federal universities, but has also continued to justify its being regulatory body for all universities in Nigeria. It has also collaborated effectively with similar bodies across the globe, representing the interests of our great country. I can only wish, on behalf of JAM, the National Universities Commission, a principal partner of JAM, a more prosperous, fruitful, efficient service to our great nation. I must also appreciate my brother, my friend, the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, Baba Adamu Rashid, for all his efforts at improving university education in this great country of ours.
It is my great honor and pleasure to have been asked to report this video message of goodwill on the occasion of the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the National Universities Commission. The National Universities Commission has come a long way from its 1962 days, when it was an advisory body operating from the office of the Prime Minister, to 1974, when it got its first law, Decree number 1 of 1974, which created it as a buffer between the federal government and the universities and made it an advisory body to government on issues relating to funding, establishment, funding, and management of universities. Since then, of course, it has acquired several more legal enablers to enable it to perform its multidimensional role as a funding agency, as a regulator, and as an
On the occasion of 60th anniversary of the National University Commission, I bring very warm felicitation from all our past and present contributors.
All right, thank you very much. Well, of course, Professor Okoje is right here with us. Probably would have more time to speak later on. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're gradually inching to the main highlight of this Monday's event, at least the morning part of it. And so just before His Excellency, the Vice President's representative, comes up to deliver his speech, may I call on Professor Emeritus Peter Okebukola to make brief remarks about the core curriculum minimum academic standards, CCMAS. Professor Okebukola.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, what better time than the Diamond Jubilee celebration of the National Universities Commission to unveil the mother of all future-fit curricula for the Nigerian university system. What better time to congratulate His Academic Eminence, Abubakar Adamu Rashid, the father of the Nigerian university system, for spearheading the epoch-making event of injecting the core curriculum and minimum academic standards to revitalize university education in Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the process leading to the event today presents a global best practice in curriculum re-engineering and renewal that will be documented in classic textbooks that will be ready reference for curriculum theorists and practitioners the world over. It was a 6-step process which began with a sensitization lecture exactly 5 years ago. And that lecture was chaired by His Excellency President Olusegun Obasanjo in this hall. This was followed by labor market survey of the gaps in the existing curriculum of Nigerian universities. The input from the findings formed the basis of a revised edition of the curriculum by teams of national and international experts in the disciplines and private sector players led by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. The next step was input from all departments and faculties in the Nigerian university system. And I must thank and appreciate all our vice chancellors who are here and for those who stand proxy for this particular phase of the program. Because the draft was sent to all our universities, to the departments. We had departmental input, faculty input, and the aggregation of all of these funneled through the Senate to the National Universities Commission. Now came the very rigorous and exciting step of review, which took the better part of 16 months. The review teams were carefully selected from the best of scholars in their disciplines. We also had members of professional bodies and the academies. The product of the review, which went through further validation and conducted under the aegis of the NUC Strategy Advisory Committee. I will introduce them after because there's some time sensitivity at this stage of the program. I'm going to introduce them fully later. Is what is being unveiled today. The entire process, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from start to finish, involved over 16,000 participants. On the basis of the data available to me, nowhere in the world has this comprehensive scope, inclusiveness, and national and international stakeholder participation in curriculum renewal happened. Hence, we are making our way into the Guinness Book of Records. And Baba Rashid will be leading us into that book. Now, the highlights of the core curriculum minimum academic standards, I'll just gallop through this. You are going to get a brochure which will give you the full details of the overall, overarching highlights and the individual for disciplines include it's comparable in content to similar curricula in the best university systems in the world and relevant to Nigeria's socio-cultural context. It addresses the knowledge and skills gaps in the curriculum it is replacing. Now, while providing 70% of core curriculum as minimum for all Nigerian universities, it allows universities to customize and bespoke the curriculum by adding 30% of courses to reflect their uniqueness of mission and contextual peculiarities. It places accent on entrepreneurship, practical rather than theoretical knowledge and skills, and the development of 21st century skills. In line with contemporary global practice, a change of nomenclature has happened from benchmark minimum academic standards, or BMAS, to core curriculum and minimum academic standards. In consonance with emerging development globally, the curriculum is to stimulate blended learning in its delivery. Number 7 of 10, strategically configured to produce future-fit graduates. It provides essential foundations for lifelong learning. It nurtures deep thinkers and problem solvers and graduates who are highly skilled in their professions and disciplines. It encourages interdependencies of disciplines. It's my pleasure, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to invite the Vice President of our great country, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, GCON, very ably represented by the Secretary to Government of our great country. You know, I work in the area of ranking. If I were to rank all the secretaries to government of Nigeria since Nigeria started in 1960, the number 1 will be Mr. Boss Mustafa. It's a pleasure to invite him. Mr. Boss Mustafa, CFR, a lawyer, a management consultant, a politician, a business guru, to make this presentation and fulfill the number 1 SGF that Nigeria will have had.
Prof, I think that was extremely generous. Members of the National Assembly here present, the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu, CON, ably represented by Professor Ishaq Oloyede, OFR, the Registrar of JAM, the Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, Professor Abubakar Rashid, past chairmen and executive secretaries and past executive secretaries of NUC, members of the Diplomatic Corps, chairmen and pro-chancellors of universities, heads of government agencies, particularly those in the education sector, vice chancellors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press. I bring you warm greetings from the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, GCON, who is unavoidably absent because of some international engagements that took him out of the country. And he has asked me this morning to represent him and deliver his opening remarks. It is therefore with great pleasure that I received and accepted the invitation to declare the 60th anniversary celebration of NUC Open and to formally launch the core curriculum and minimum academic standards CMAS document. I am indeed one of the celebrants today rather than a guest, because the Nigerian university system is my primary constituency. This 60th anniversary affords the Nigerian Universities Commission the opportunity to evaluate its performance over the years and rework its strategies for the future. It goes without saying that the NLC has gone through many phases in the past 60 years, occasioned by political and economic circumstances, resulting in significant changes within the Nigerian higher education landscape. The takeover of the then regional universities by the federal government and the establishment of more universities, conventional and specialized, and inter-university centers, and the need to promote quality and relevance in university education made government to give more regulatory functions and powers to the NLC. Worthy of mention is the power to approve the establishment of new programs in Nigerian universities and to accredit them. The Commission is also charged with the responsibility of developing guidelines, processing applications for establishing private universities. Permit me to mention that the return of democratic governance in 1999, which brought about the streamlining of the regulatory roles of NUC in tandem with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This phase ushered in the establishment of private universities and a comprehensive review of laws guiding university education in the country. To address growing concerns by universities and academic staff, in particular, on what was perceived as strong government influence in the management of universities, government, in collaboration with the National Assembly and the NUC, enacted the University Autonomy Law to give more powers to the universities and their own governance and administration, including the appointment of their principal officers. You may agree with me that access and quality have been key concerns in the delivery of university education in Nigeria. The administration of President Muhammadu Buhari places emphasis on expanding access and pressing need for specialized professional programs informed the administration's decision to establish more specialized public and license more private universities, with the NUC playing a key role in the process. While establishing these universities, government is not oblivious to the funding challenges of the existing ones. It is working to ensure that all federal universities are given the necessary support to thrive through its commitment to supporting the NUC as it pursues its mandates of ensuring that quality is attained, maintained, and enhanced in our universities. So far, the NUC has discharged its functions over the years creditably and must be congratulated even as it celebrates its 60th anniversary. Despite the challenges faced by our universities, Nigerian graduates are highly valued and sought after globally. This is a testimony to the global recognition of the quality of training in our universities. I therefore salute the courage and hard work of the successive management and staff of NUC for their contributions to the growth of this reputable commission. As you are all aware, One of the major issues bedeviling university education in Nigeria is the incessant strike actions by various unions in our public. The system has cumulatively lost over 50 months from 1999 to date as a result of strike actions by academic staff union of universities. I doubt if there is any country that has lost such amount of time to strikes in its university system. From the first strike in 1978 to date, all the issues have remained the same. The agitations have been primarily on funding, university autonomy, and remunerations. And let me pause at this stage to say that I was an active participant in the strike. This is not the vice president now, but it's boss Mustafa speaking. I was an active participant in the strike of 1978. That was in the days of Ali Moscow. We threw stones, we threw pedals. Sometimes we manufactured IEDs to ensure that we dealt decisively with the issues that arose at that time. But I believe that we have come to a stage as a people and as a country, and particularly for those of you that are charged with the responsibilities of administering our universities, to start an honest conversation as to how to deal with these issues, because we cannot continue dealing with them in the manner in which we've dealt with them in the past and have not achieved the desired objectives. And I'm glad that architect Okay, thank you. This is the right time, and I'm glad that architect Sonia Echono, the executive secretary of TED Fund, has stirred the nest of an honest conversation that we must begin. I remember in 1978, I was privileged to be the national president of Gongola Students Union all across the country, but then I was a student in ABU. And I had a cause to negotiate with the then military governor. He was then a colonel, but later became a major general, and now the emir of Gondu, Major General Muhammad Bujega, in my capacity as the national president of the Gongola State Students Union. Professor Saad Abubakar was then the commissioner for education in Gongola. And I engaged them in an intensive negotiation that ultimately produced what was popularly known in the campus then in ABU and all across the country as the famous Jega Award. And for those of you that were in Zaria and most of the Nigerian campuses then, realize that never in the history of student scholarship that we got the kind of money we got. We ended up on campus. Most students from then Gongola State could afford to buy a motor bicycle. They could afford to furnish their rooms with with refrigerators and big sound systems. That generated a lot of problems for the then governor of Gongola State. And in one of their ICSA meetings, that's the meeting of the northern state governors, there were 12 then. The issue had to be debated because there were agitations from the other 11 northern state students associations for them to get the kind of treatment that we got. The conclusion of the matter is that it almost cost me my scholarship, but Professor Saad Abubakar, a gentleman, finest gentleman I've ever, stood up for me. He said that if this young man at the age of 21 could convince us logically about the need for the increase, then we do not have to punish him for his ability and his skills of which he deployed to convince us. I'm saying this so that this conversation that I'm urging that we begin should be responsive, should be all-inclusive as to the shared responsibilities of funding education. I now proceed with the VP's speech. I need to stress here that government alone cannot fund education in the country. It is therefore imperative that a sustainable model of funding university education must be developed. Such a model should take cognizance of the socio-economic diversity and competing expectations of the Nigerian populace and workforce. The most recent industrial actions by the university-based unions have necessitated a revisit on the issues and scope of university autonomy by government. This will lead to the review of the university autonomy laws to appropriately address funding, including staff remuneration, institutional governance, and administration, as well as issues relating to internally generated revenue. The federal government has been supporting and will continue to support university education through statutory appropriation and special interventions from government agencies such as State Fund, and facilitate similar interventions with other strategic partners and international agencies such as the World Bank. Government is aware of the challenges that NUC faces due to the overlap of regulatory roles by various professional bodies, particularly in the accreditation of professional programs. I hereby reiterate that the Commission is the sole regulator agency of university education, empowered by the Constitution, while professional bodies are to regulate professional practices. I therefore call on the Ministry of Education to lead other relevant stakeholders in streamlining the framework of the Commission's engagements with professional bodies for the good of the system. I am also aware that the core curriculum and minimum academic standards, which will be launched today, was done in collaboration with the various professional regulatory bodies. This goes to show that harmony can also be achieved in the various quality assurance efforts. I applaud the NUC and all stakeholders, especially the academic experts, the private sector represented by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and the relevant professional bodies that worked painstakingly to bring the curriculum review to a successful completion. This document has truly taken cognizance of the need to provide greater academic autonomy to universities with regards to development of some percentage of course content. I commend the Commission for this decision to share the minimum credit units required for graduation with Nigerian universities in the ratio of 70 to 30%. To further integrate institutional peculiarities. I also applaud the foresight of unbundling of such disciplines as agriculture and the emergence of 3 new disciplines in the Nigerian university system, namely allied health sciences, architecture and communication, and media studies. The launch of the core curriculum and minimum academic standard, CMAS, will usher in a new era in the delivery of quality and relevant content. I therefore enjoin the Commission to ensure the wide circulation of the document to our universities and degree awarding institutions for immediate adoption and implementation. To the NUC, led today by the Executive Secretary, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, MNI, MFR, FNAL, and to the successive management and staff of the Commission and the entire Nigerian university system, I extend my goodwill and felicitations on the numerous achievements of the NUC from inception to date. With pleasure, therefore, and gratitude to God, I hereby formally launch the CMAS and formally declare the Diamond Jubilee celebration of the Nigerian University Commission open. I wish you all a successful event and many more prosperous years of regulating university education in Nigeria. I thank you for your kind attention and listening. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And let the conversation start.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Secretary to the Government. We'll invite the high table. The high table, please, let's step down here. Any minister, okay. Yeah, high table, please join quickly. Okay. Yeah, everybody on the high table. Yeah, okay. Okay, good.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, SAN, GCON, I have the singular honor and privilege to cut the tape to unveil the CMAC document for the benefit of the youth of the Nigerian universities to advance the course of learning and to the glory of God. Thank you.
I will pick Mercy. You should pick close. Okay. You should pick close. Yes, it's everything.
You've been watching a live Channels Television event.